Welcome back to the channel. Before I get into this video, I just want to thank all my subscribers out there who showed me support, love, likes, engagement. It really means a lot. It keeps me motivated. So if you're not subscribed, please like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to hear more stories and just life lessons in general. So today's video is about why I stopped living for others and started living for myself. And as always, I'm going to tell you a story. So, from childhood to adulthood, as you transition through life, you usually live for others rather than yourself, right? We start with the childhood. So, when you're a child, typically your parents or your guardians, they set standards for you, expectation, goals. It's almost like they're crafting a life that they wanted to live onto you so they can live through you. It happens a lot. And so you carry this unexpected burden that you didn't ask for all the way through childhood, even sometimes through adulthood. And you don't really get to know yourself along the way. If this is someone like you, then this video was made for you. And so I take it back to my childhood. I had a great childhood. I always say I had the best childhood in the world. And one day I will make a video about my childhood. I grew up in Illinois, small town, a factory town at that. And my mom, she had us with the white people. I grew up in the suburbs. Like we were walking to school, we would walk around the neighborhood, ride bikes, we can be out late. It was just a lot of freedom. And our house was the hangout spot. And we had another friend who house was the hangout spot. So we had like two hangout spots. So with my mom setting us up for success early on in life to put us in an environment where there's resources for us to use and thrive. But there was also some downside to it. Yes, having these resources was amazing, but the expectations put on us as kids was super high. My mom was cool, but the one thing she didn't play around with was education. So we were kind of forced to be great in school. I mean, it paid off too, right? Because you're educated, but constantly trying to attain A's, B's. Getting a C was like, oh yeah, you're tripping. It was a lot of burden from that point on. And then playing in sports. My brother went to a private school. And just for us to live this lifestyle and how she grew up and how a lot of my family grew up around that time, it was kind of like the complete opposite. We were the ones that were in great shape, I will say, versus my other family members were at a disadvantage because they didn't live in the greatest areas. So when you live in low income areas, you don't have the greatest resources. You don't have the greatest support. And so she was trying to keep us away from that, not permanently, but as much as possible. Like we will go visit, our other family members in the hood. We will stay the night. We will still be around that family, but it wasn't all the time. Fast forward from elementary school to middle school, high school, it's almost kind of like the same way, but the expectations grow, especially in high school. It's like you're going off to college, you need to figure out what you want to do in life. So, what you're going to major in, what are your goals, what are your dreams, what are you going to do? And the expectation was severely impacting me personally. I'm not sure for my brother, but for me, it's just I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. My older brother, he had his path, he was already going, but me, I was the child that was kind of like a wild card. And it's not to say I didn't have any ambition or anything like that. I just wanted to be free, right? I had this feeling since high school. I've been living for my mom, my teachers, just everybody who put a lot of pressure on me to be successful that I didn't know who I was. And high school was that major point for me to start questioning who I was. Everybody's going to be different when it comes to growing in life. Your pillars, my pillars for growth was through relationships, it was through love. And every time I love and every time I got heartbroken, I would grow as a person, but it would hurt so much. For other people, it's not love. For other people, it's finances, maybe it's friendships, maybe it's school. There's just so many different paths. But like I said, mine was relationships. And this is how I found myself. And this is the moment I start to question who I was. In my previous video about my first girlfriend. That heartbreak right there was the first time in life I started to question who I was, what I wanted to do, what did I like, what did I dislike. This whole time, I just felt like I was a robot and life was just a blur. And during that time, I got like really, really, really depressed. And so my childhood memories got suppressed. If it wasn't for these home videos from my childhood, I would have had no idea who I really was. But thankfully, I had those videos and I can see who I was. And so as relationships go on, heartbreak, situationships, I'm growing as a person. And it wasn't until this one, I will call it situationship, that really changed the trajectory of my life. In my previous videos about getting tested, it was with that person. We were messing around with each other for like a year or two, and it was really intense. And like I said, that's a story for another day. I would definitely get into that story. But with her, not only was, I always talk about the toxic things, but it was good too. We had good moments. She forced me to go outside, right? She forced me to try new things out, go to new restaurants, try more drinks, be more adventurous and things of that nature. Through that situationship, I was learning a lot about myself. That's the key right there. And then when everything kind of like came to an end, I was heartbroken, but I got over it pretty quickly. I remember I was in my kitchen one day, and it was probably maybe like a week after everything had happened when we went our separate ways, and something just clicked. I remember I had an associate. He was more of a hippie, right? And he would tell me about these psychedelics. And that was around the time I started doing that stuff, probably a couple months before COVID hit. I'm in the kitchen. I remember I got a text from her and she asked me, it was weird. And I still think about to this day. When she texted me asking, "Do you think I would make a good girlfriend?" Immediately, I was like, no. I was like, no, you're just not a good person. After that text message, we kind of just like stopped talking for a while. During this time, I'm healing. I want to get better. I don't want to be depressed no more. I didn't want to be this guy. I wanted to figure out who I really was. Why was I living for everyone but myself? I was betraying myself for a very, very long time. I can't believe it. If I had a mentor like me back then, none of this stuff would have happened, but everything happens for a reason. And so, like I said, I try LSD, I try shrooms, I tried all this stuff for first year of COVID, and it changed my life. It lifted me out of my depression. I did a lot of soul searching. I was a deep thinker, anyways, but this just added extra depth into my thinking. Like power add-ons. And so 2020 was like the first year I got on the journey to knowing who I was. And as the years passed, I got out of depression. I slipped into a mini one and I was dealing with women on and off, but I was single for like 6 years. So I was really trying to keep to myself during this time. And I didn't know how long it was going to last. And it was the most important time period of my life because I really started to understand who I was and all these expectations that were thrown upon me, the weight of the world, the pressure. I let go. And I don't know if I told y'all before, I believe in God. So I'm very, very spiritual. Something that always stood out was let go, let God. And I did that. I let go of everything that was holding me down. And when I tell you, it was like a breath of fresh air. It was like this reset. My plate was clean. No more dirt, no more struggling. Mentally, I can just let go. It's time for me to move on. At some point, you're going to get to a crossroad where you had to either choose yourself or choose the lifestyle that you've been living. If you haven't got to the point where you're tired of living the way that you are living, then you're not tired of it. And I got to that point. And it's so important to get to that point. I got tired of living the lifestyle I was living. It was depressing. Nothing was great. It was just negative, being mean, easy to be irritated, and much, much more. And ever since I chose the path to focus on myself and better myself, life has been tremendous. While, yes, there's still going to be ups and downs, I'm positive. I can look on life and think positively. Even when I'm going through things, it's like, you know what? I'm going to keep a positive outlook because my situation It's not that bad. There's people out here in this world who are going through way worse than I am. Let me be appreciative. This is key. Be grateful for everything in life. Be grateful for the good, for the bad. Be grateful that, if you have a bed, if you have a car, if, you're breathing, if you have a job, even if you don't have a job, if you're suffering, be grateful for it because you can only be down for so long. When you're at rock bottom, that's the best place to be. Sound hypocritical, doesn't it? The reason why it's the best place to be, because the only way to go is up. You cannot go no further than rock bottom. Why? Because that ground is filled with nothing but rocks and you can't get through it. And it's hard. I'm not going to say it's the easiest thing in the world, but you had to accept that you don't love yourself. That's the hardest thing to do. Is be like, okay, it's to accept that. It's to take accountability that you didn't push yourself first, that you didn't truly love yourself. Everything becomes easier. I'm not lying to you. Life is amazing. From 2020 to 2026, I can tell you I lived so many different lives. And each year it got better, better, and better. Like I said, there's always going to be some downs. The downs don't stay. They can't stay forever. You had to experience good. That's the duality of life. And so in 2026 is probably the greatest year I have had in my life. Everything that was holding me back throughout the years has been replaced tenfold. When I chose to stop living for others and I start living for myself, life finally had a purpose. And that purpose was always to make sure that I am good, that I love myself. Whatever life I want to live, I can do it. I don't have to worry about other people and what they think about me. I don't care about their expectations. I don't care about their goals for me. I don't care about none of that because they are not me. You are you. You only know who you are. Stop living for others because when you do, you stop living.